Patty, I just want to say, if I could run 45 minutes, I wouldn't be doing that. First of all, thanks to Women and Children. This is very nice. And the LCCP. It gives us an opportunity to sell our books. And of course, that's what we're here for, but also to meet more people and to spread the word. Also to Bold Strokes Press. I'm very, very proud to be an author for them. They're professional, they're kind, and they produce the best darn literature you ever read. And Annie's just as proud of it as all the rest of the girls here. This book is so different. This is a book about a reporter that has international experience, and the story begins in Baghdad. And I do want to tell you something, that every piece of this book, as you read through it, has been practically documented. Of course, I fictionalized it, but it's from the Chicago papers, it's from the Milwaukee papers, and it all takes place between Milwaukee and Chicago. And my background on it would be Ann Girls from NPR, Ali Hershiali, Reuters, big time. A Swedish author whose name I've never been able to pronounce, 1,000 Days. And that was a great book. And I did just a ton of research on it. I really actually didn't intend for this to be a lesbian romance. I don't know what I intended it for. It's my first book. Okay, so it's game for me to say this. All right, and so the story begins in Baghdad.
What's it called?
Lake Effect Snow. Thank you, Jen. Here, I'm sorry, everybody. And are we all sick of Lake Effect Snow? Darn straight. And this actually came to me. I was still working at the time. I'm retired now. But I was working in Milwaukee, and I was going home to Racine, Wisconsin. And I'm sitting at the stoplight, and it's just snowing, just like this. I went, oh, that's my book. Lake Effect Snow. Right there. Okay, and so we begin in Baghdad. The reporter and her driver drove slowly away from the military morgue into Baghdad's black night. Exhausted, her body gave a slight jerk. She felt as dark as the air around her. They had killed Jack Keegan. He had stood beside her, white shirt gleaming under his body armor, beneath the lone streetlight. Suddenly, a hole blossomed in his forehead, the crack of a gunshot reaching her ears a second later. Instinctively, she had reached for him, and they fell together as gunfire crackled like lightning around them. Her hands felt the stubble on his face, looking for life. "Jack," she said, and felt as if she'd shouted, but later thought she may have whispered. He had been dead weight, unmoving until the Marines removed him. She and her driver had followed them to the hospital at breakneck speeds, but Annie had not even hoped. She had held him, and her clothes were soaked with his blood. The car stopped at her hotel, and she pounded up the stairs in the dark to change clothes and to wash Jack's blood off of herself. She was on the air a little under 2 hours, and no one cared about the condition of her heart or her mind. They still had 30 minutes when her driver made his usual stop at his uncle's market for cigarettes. She got out into the gritty dawn and stretched. 3 trees leaned against the building, catching her eye, and Annie reached into the back of the car for her sketchbook. Anything to do but think of Jack Keegan. She sat on the sandbags with her back against a cement wall and zipped her jacket up, closing her eyes. God, she was tired. She crossed her legs and let the book lay in her lap. It was the rainy, cool season in Baghdad, and she was glad for the coat she was wearing. The air was the usual combination of dust and gas fumes as traffic began to pick up behind her. She looked at the market again and studied 2 older ladies on a bench. One of them held a small handful of flowers. She found a blank sheet of paper and quickly drew the building, and then the 3 trees that tipped tiredly against the wall. Leaning over, she blew dirt off the paper and pushed her mind away from Jack. She had to get through this report without crying. Annie had called her New York producer from the morgue. This would be big news in the United States. But they both had cried for a friend. Then she had called his wife and cried again. Looking down, she forced herself to draw steadily until children's voices broke her concentration. two women dressed in the traditional black autos of Iraqi women were leading a group of youngsters 8 or 9 years old. This was no place for a child, even under the protection of the teachers. One of the women caught Annie's eyes. Dark eyes scanned Annie's light one, and a sudden look passed between them. One Iraqi, one American. Annie began to smile just as a bomb exploded. The world went silent, turned red with her own blood, and then black as she was blown into the street, unconscious against her driver's car. Now this actually happened, and Annie gets home, and the real trouble starts right here between Chicago and Milwaukee. And it really did happen, and I fictionalized it. But I hope you'll read it. It's a good story. And she did live through the experience. Just remember, it's fiction.